It's nice to have someone to talk to. You don't mind if I talk a little more, do you? You're a stranger to these lands. Let me tell you something. The world is vast and the oceans are dark, but we find our way. We call our world the present. A time, the present, not much of a place, but when connections from person to person are as thin and tenuous as our ley lines, how could we ever choose a name? But the time, we can all agree on that. It's the present, and that's where we are. Welcome. It's the Fae that provide protection here. The Archfae, the Celestials, beings that can fend off the corruption of the oceans. We've a sky with 3 moons. Orna, the sweet green of spring, Namazi, the clear blue of winter, and Dinara, the burnished gold of autumn. On a cloudless day, you can see a hint of each one on its horizon, no matter what time of the year it may be, but they're only ever high in the sky and full in their own season. In the summer, they're all there, near hidden by our summer star, though. That's the celestial of the sun, Iliakos. We have 3 continents on this home of ours, or at least as far as I know. Suelis to the east, vast, unexplored, and mostly towering mountains and cold rock. But even there you can find islands of safety. The most powerful is hidden high up on the peaks, protected by the draconic guardian Isine. Then we have our smallest continent, Rasul. But don't be fooled by its size. Rasul, a land of sunlight and warmth, is fully protected by Iliakos, that celestial of the brightest star of all. They demand that their peoples bask in their light, and the land is sun-drenched and shadeless and beautiful. Then to the east, the largest swath of land, and where our boys began this tale. That's Octarius. Islands and their guardians are scattered throughout this continent, and more are being discovered all the time, but there are 4 that stand strong in the face of the oceans. The Phoenix Island in the north. The fiery celestial watches over more land than most in this world can imagine, and demands only a small sacrifice at the hearth. Freya in the west. Oberon protects person and beast alike, and their ports are open to the rare traveler from overseas. He demands a resident join his collections of beasts each year. It's a costly gift, but for the good of many. Or at least that's what they say. Then there's Somewhere in the south. It's a rare oasis in the desert protected by the devil. No one quite knows what kind of guardian they are. Celestial? Feywilds? Who knows? But they radiate power, and there are plenty willing to do their bidding. They ask for money and are always welcoming of new patrons. And finally there's Enian in the southeast. These verdant lands are watched over by the unicorn fae Luru, and artistry, song, and dance fend off the terrible corruption of the oceans. She wishes for entertainment and beauty from her residents. Some people, in living so close to their guardians, have become fae-touched. They tend to be leaders, trusted, wise. They understand the guardians better than most, and they withstand the dangers of the oceans better than most. For centuries after the downfall, none of these places knew each other. Each island stood in the ocean of decay, alone and terrified. Some of them still fell to the corruption against the horrors of the oceans, and their guardians fell with them, warped to monstrosities. But always people are curious, and they wanted to find who else is out there despite the costs. Anyone who leaves the confines of their borders for too long is destined to crumble beneath the horrors of the oceans and drown. And maybe they'll be found again, but that aberration won't know themselves anymore. It's a tragic fate, but so is an eternal solitude. So, lowly mercenaries, the poor, and the criminal, and anyone else down on their luck became the lay seekers. Most died or lost themselves in their time's map in the oceans. But some survived. Some survived long enough to follow those ley lines all the way to new islands. It was the Phoenix that first formed connections over the oceans. Ley lines spread from that island like roots. Even now, 200 years later, the island continues its legacy of reaching further into the unknown. Their most recent experiment was the Dawn Shepherds program, the creation of a squadron of heroic soldiers somehow fit to withstand the corrupting force of the oceans. No one's sure how or why, but they were successful for a time. The program's been on hold for a couple years now, and when smaller islands drown, there's no one coming to help them. But these 4 major islands are secure beneath their guardians' eyes, and their outstretched hands hold each other through the earliest of the Good Love and Good Love Company rail lines. In the past 150 years or so, they've been building along any trail the Layseekers managed to uncover. They've got their competitors, sure. I have been hearing more and more about the Safe Travels Rail Company, but when people think of travel, they think the Good Loves first and foremost. For the first time in a long time, the idea of trade has begun to flourish. Trade of goods, ideas, cultures. But travel is money, and guardians tend to be protective to xenophobic, and most people fear the break that may occur if they open their borders. Could that be what happened to poor Enosh, they whisper? Or did their guardians simply drown? That's still unknown. So, our boys, making their way across the oceans, are a rare sort. It's nice that they move as they do across the lands. And it's nice that we can join them in our own way, isn't it?